Thanks, Cahir. Look, last week it was stated that the Chief Financial Officer was only in the role for 3 days when the release of the 2017, 2018 and 2019 top talent earnings were released on the 20th of January 2021. In the opening statement from Ms. O'Keefe, she questions that. She said that that information was incorrect. So can I ask the CFO?
Yeah. That was a mistake on my part to confuse the years. So when that information was published, I had been in the role a year. But what I would say is that the information that was published had been prepared by the time I joined, and it had been audited. No changes were made to the figures that were published from what was presented to the auditors at the time I joined.
And again,
yep.
Thank you. And again, in Ms. O'Keefe's opening statement there, she states that she was advised by either the DG or the head of content that a commercial arrangement had been proposed. Can I ask her, who was that proposal from? Does she know?
I'm sorry, Deputy, could you repeat that question again?
You had said in your opening statement that either the DG or the head of content that a commercial arrangement, this is when negotiations had essentially broken down, that the agent representing Mr. Tubridy rejected the proposal that was on the table, and it was then emerged that a commercial arrangement had been proposed. Do you know who that was proposed by?
As I say in my statement, it was either, my recollection is it was either the Director General or the Head of Content.
Okay, so one of those proposed that this commercial agreement. Okay.
The initial commercial arrangement.
The initial commercial arrangement. Okay. And can I just ask, in terms of your role as Chief Financial Officer, I appreciate you're no longer in the position, and in terms of the oversight of the expenditure of the barter account, I know you have stated that you had financial control. So can I ask, what does financial control mean? So you have access to expenditure. If there was an item there that needed clarity, is that something you go back to the head of commercial to get clarification on, or what does financial oversight or control look like?
In terms of the barter account, my recollection, the numbers involved were around 300,000. Now that is my recollection. I'm not saying that's a specific. I don't have access to any records. Neither do I have access to. I don't have access to any RT records. Neither do I have access to any RT personnel to confirm this. But my recollection was the value was around 300,000 in terms of airtime. Now that's around less than 0.5% of the total airtime. My concern. My concern at the time for the organisation was that the commercial targets were reached, 180 to 200,000 to 200 million. That was, and I worked with Geraldine in that regard. On the cost front, budgets were set for each department, including sales. They had their own budgets, and as long as we developed those budgets, or commercial finance developed those budgets with the commercial department, and as long as they adhered to those budgets and didn't run over budget, that was our concern. That's what I mean by financial control.
Okay, so I mean, would you have got an itemised expenditure list? No, not that level of financial control. No. Okay.
No, we had we had 350 million of costs.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. And just in terms of the current Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Collins, when did you bring the barter account onto the balance sheet? What year? I know you stated last year.
2020. It was
2020.
It was part of the 2019.
Okay. And your evidence last week, you said in terms when questioned, you said in terms of 2022 there was about 330,000 went through the account. In 2019, 500,000 went through it.
In gross terms.
In gross terms. So that was a driving factor as to why you decided to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a significant figure.
Okay. And did you have a conversation with the director of commercial or?
About taking it? No, that was an accounting.
That was.
Yeah,
and did you? Obviously, you had concerns. Did you express those concerns in terms of what was a sizable increase in terms of what the ex-CFO has said in terms of the expenditure on some of these junkets, slush fund that we've heard the evidence
That
of.
happened before I joined. When I joined RTE, it was explained by the Director General.
But you obviously had concerns about the huge increase
Well,
in
I suppose
expenditure.
the concern I had was that it wasn't accounted for in the accounts. It wasn't in the management accounts, it wasn't in the year-end accounts. And good accounting practice would bring it onto the accounts there and would make it transparent. Where I took comfort from the fact that a senior director was managing it and the Director General seemed to be close to what was going on in the account.
Okay.
So, look, there was a certain element of trust there. In hindsight, would I have done things differently? Yes, I think I would have done things differently.
Okay.
But
Just in terms of the agreement being underwritten, and again, Ms O'Keefe, you had said that it was at the request of Mr Noel Kelly that the agreement would be underwritten by RTE, and you've stated that you oppose that. Can I ask why you oppose that?
Because guaranteeing the commercial arrangement posed a risk and a potential exposure, a cost exposure and a liability exposure to the organisation if the commercial arrangement wasn't fulfilled.
Yep. So you were doing your job and you expressed those serious concerns in relation to the potential risk if that agreement was underwritten.
I did,
by
but just to confirm, when I left the organisation, there was no support from RTE to provide that type of guarantee. So that was my view, but it also was the view of the Director General, it was the view of the Head of Content, and anyone that was, and the RTE solicitor at the time, just to confirm.
Okay. And just in terms of the handover from yourself to the incoming Chief Financial Officer, you have stated that you briefed extensively in terms of the negotiations and where things were at. I'd imagine that critical element of it you would have relayed to Mr Collins, who was the incoming CFO. There was an attempt or a suggestion that it would be underwritten.
Yes, I mean all elements of the commercial, all elements of the Ryan Tubridy deal were discussed not only with Mr Collins but also with everyone else involved. So everyone was aware. That's all. That is my recollection, that everyone was up to date.
Yeah.
Now,
So,
what I would say is the brief of the RTE CFO is really wide. And there's a huge amount of elements to it. There's the networks, there's the concert orchestras, there's the commercial, there's the licence fee, there's the projections, there's the bank borrowings, I could go on.
Absolutely.
So there's a long list.
Okay.
And
So
all of those areas.
Sorry, I'm conscious of the time here. So, Mr Collins, you would have been aware that there was a suggestion that it would be underwritten, this agreement.
yeah, look, I don't specifically remember, but I'm sure it was.
Would you have expressed concerns?
Well,
or an opinion?
As I said earlier in the meeting there, I consulted notes of a meeting I attended with the Director General, the Director of Content and the in-house solicitor, and it was confirmed by the Director General at that date, that was the 30th of April, that there was going to be no underwriting.
I think Mr Lynch wants to come in there. Sorry, I just see.
Just to be clear, because I've had a look at the file, and it's firstly great that Breda O'Keefe is here today to give her side of the story. And I think that's what's important, is because I was made aware, I think at the end of last week, that there is I think what Breda has recognised today is the fact that she was aware that the Renault deal was going to be cost neutral. I think there may be a view that there was an interpretation from the agent that meant there would be underwriting for the 5 years, which is absolutely incorrect, because my review of the file is the agent provided a letter that was never signed and was pushing to have a letter signed over a period of time. That all culminated after Breda O'Keefe had left the organisation.
Again,
Yeah, this is
Because
important.
I asked you if there was any further side letters in relation to that deal, and you said no. So what letter am I missing in that? Sorry,
Yeah.
Deputy.
So in terms of that in terms of the Renault deal, there's no other side letter in existence. But Mr Kelly...
But a letter from Mr Kelly, there's a letter from Mr Kelly relating
had
to
been provided to do
We
with,
get that.
to do with underwriting the overall agreement over a period of time. Subsequently to that, from what I can see in terms of the file, that and from what Mr Collins has
This
told
is
me.
where it'd be very useful.
sorry,
I'll come back in.
And I just want to remind colleagues there's actually a vote in the Dáils. We are going to have to suspend to allow for that. Do you want to proceed like, you've only a couple of seconds left anyway,
Well,
so just to
I'll come
finish.
back because there's a few other questions.
We're actually out of time though, Deputy Brady.
In fairness, you gave other deputies
And I
a
would
few
give you the
minutes, and in
latitude.
fairness,
That's why-
I have had some interruption as well, Chair. So I'd appreciate, look, if we could come back.
Deputy Brady,
They started 2 minutes ago,
hang
so
on,
we have 2
Deputy
minutes.
Brady, I'm saying I will give you latitude, another 2 minutes. I'm just reminding you that you're already out of time, and another 2 minutes, and that should get us over there for our vote, will it?
2 minutes.
Okay. Well, just can I ask Mr. Coveney then, just in terms of last week, he, when he was asked around the figures for the show, the toy show, the musical, he said they were commercially sensitive. Now we have some of those figures. It shows there was a loss of 2.2 million. It seems they were more personally sensitive than commercially sensitive. Can I ask him, just in terms of the barter account, was the barter account used to specifically cover any costs associated with the toy show? No costs whatsoever were covered. Okay. Just in terms.
Just on the, you'll notice from the figures that are released, we haven't released third-party contract details because they are two parties and they are commercially sensitive and negotiated. We have released all the financial information we can, but we haven't released the
But there was no costs covered by the barter account,
No.
none whatsoever. Just in terms of the CFO, last week he said that the taxpayer was potentially defrauded, and he said he would have to get advice as to whether he should speak to the Gardaí in relation to that very serious charge. Have you taken the opportunity to get advice in relation?
No, because the legal advice is that fraud hasn't been occurred here.
Okay.
What occurred here was...
But you stated last week. You stated last week. Sorry, Mr. Collins. You made a very serious charge last week that, in your view, the taxpayer was potentially defrauded. And you said you were going to get advice.
No, I never said I was going to get advice.
You did say you were going to get advice.
I didn't say I was going to get
Deputy
advice.
Brady,
I said,
can you just allow Mr. Collins to answer the question?
My opinion, maybe the taxpayer was defrauded. I'm not a lawyer. I wasn't talking from a legal point of view. It's been confirmed earlier in this meeting that no fraud has occurred here.
Okay. Well, just to conclude, I want to go to the tripartite agreement, which certainly is a foundation document. And when I first read it, on the back page it says, "Once signed by all parties, this agreement will constitute a legally binding document, and it is acknowledged that there is a valid consideration for the agreement." Now, we know that when I first read it, I seen an agent that signed it on behalf of Mr. Ryan Tubridy. At first, I thought it was a mistake. The date on it, the 21st of the 4th, 2023. So can we have it confirmed that that date is accurate?
Yes, as I said, Deputy, I think it was when we were collating the information, when I was advised about Grant Thornton, NKM sent in the contract with the signature. So my assumption, but it's an assumption, is that they were also contacted by Grant Thornton. They knew they were going to be in tune to sign.
Yeah, well, we know we know the
Brady.
issue
That
first
really
arose
does.
on the 7th. I think it's an important point, Chair. In fairness, I want to just finish off on
Deputy
this
Deputy
issue.
Brady, I have given
will
you
you
as
allow
much...
me to come back in when we...
No, I've given
Just
you
to
as
finish,
much latitude.
I'll finish on this.
I'm giving everybody as much
because
as possible.
it's very important.
I will have
it's very important that this is a foundation document
to suspend
that
the
led
meeting
to
because we have to go
the
and vote
payments. That led to the payments. Can I ask that, given the fact that